Hi everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and today we're going to be talking about finishing a series. In less than a week, the last book in the Dying Thought series will be out on shelves. If you want to grab a copy at the pre-order price, the link is in the description, and you can also grab pre-order swag at the link below too. Just provide proof of order and I'll get it sent out to you. But I wanted to talk today about ending a series, since the Dying Thought series was started in 2001 and I finally finished drafting it in 2016, which seems so long ago now, but there you have it. I know that this is going to have a lot of similar points to my video about the end of Dying Thoughts, but I thought they was worth covering. So my thoughts on ending a series that took me 15 years to write. Glad you asked, because I'm going to share them with you. Number 1. Ending a series has to come at the right point. One thing I was really worried about was taking the series too far. I've talked about this before and it applies to any series. There will come a point when it needs to end. Sometimes you go into knowing what that point will be, and other times it's something that happens on its own. What you want to avoid is going too far and also stopping too soon. Though I would argue that it's best to stop too soon than stretch your series out beyond the believable point. So finding that sweet spot can be hard, but it should be something you can work on with the help of your readers, and also looking at it objectively. With Dying Thoughts, as I've said before, I originally planned for it to end after 5 books, but while writing the 5th book, I realised there was more of Tara's story to be told, and so I tentatively extended it to 7, and then when I planned book 8, I knew it was the end. The same can be said for the Crime Chronicles series. I had no end in sight, but when I got to the end of book 4, I knew the next one would be the final one, so trust your senses in that regard. Number 2. You might have to get out of your comfort zone. Part of writing a series is knowing that it will go on for more than one book. And for some writers, this is the thing they excel at, but for others, it means stepping outside of your comfort zone, which isn't a bad thing. It can be a very good thing. For example, writing the Crime Chronicles series, I was never really sure where it was going, but as I got writing and into the thick of it, I realised I was telling a story that I never thought I could do before. And part of that was stepping out of my comfort zone and admitting that I was writing an urban fantasy story, which terrified me because fantasy has never been a strong choice of genre for me. I've enjoyed certain aspects of it, but never have I attempted to tell that kind of story. So I had to come to grips with that while also telling the best story that I could. Number 3. Writing the end can be bittersweet. The end can be a big milestone, knowing that you've reached the point of the series where you're saying goodbye. A bit more of that I'll touch on in a moment, but when it comes to penning that last scene, it can be both a happy time and a sad one. I know that all the time I've been an author, I've been writing one book or another in the Dying Thought series. So when I finally wrote the end of that series, it was a mixture of emotions. There were the usual good ones of knowing I was done, but there was also this bittersweet moment of knowing that I was done. I know it sounds weird, but having lived with Tara by my side for so long, something I've talked about before, it's just hard to say goodbye. But you will get to that point, and you will move on to new plots and new stories and new characters, and it will be okay. Number 4. You will grow as a writer. When I look back at the first Dying Thoughts book, I realise that I have very much grown as a writer. I've talked about this in another video, which I'll link up in the cards, but so long as you're writing, you are growing, and when you're writing a whole series, you will grow from the start of book 1 to the very end of the final book, and it will show in your work. It's hard to look back sometimes and feel like I grew so much that I want to change the stories from the start. But you have to remember, and I have to remember, that the process of growth isn't something you can predict. You can't always go back and rewrite, because otherwise you never move on. So it's been something that I've had to remind myself a lot, that growth happens and that that's okay. But the books are already finished are finished. You can't go back and rewrite them, because otherwise you get stuck in a loop and never really finish anything. Number 5. Don't be afraid to change paths. Like I said before, when I started writing Dying Thoughts, I was sure it was going to be 5 books. It ended up being 8. On top of that, when I started writing Crime Chronicles, I was sure it was going to be crime paranormal, and it ended up jumping into urban fantasy. I don't say that because I want to remind you of it, but also because you shouldn't be afraid to change paths. I am very much a plantser, or a hybrid as is the term I use, But that's not the way everybody works. Some people plan, and in doing so will plan out everything that's going to happen in their series. And if that works for you, great. It doesn't for me, which is why I added this point. Even if you have it all plotted and find yourself going a different path, don't be afraid to explore that if you're able. It might end up being nothing, but it also might end up bringing you a whole new story, and that's not always a bad thing. Number 6. You will learn about your weaknesses and your strengths. Part of writing is learning, part of growing is doing, and part of writing something as long as a series is learning about those weaknesses and strengths. Like, I've always shied away from world building because I felt like it was a huge weakness of mine. It was only when I wrote out the Lights Out trilogy that I was thrown headfirst into world building, and I found I actually really enjoyed it, but not only that, I was actually good at it. And that's something you'll find in writing, full stop. There will be some areas you could excel at and others you don't. I still struggle with certain aspects of world building when it came to the Crime Chronicle series, but that's what research is for, and I knew what I could do, and I got help with what I couldn't from people like my CPs. So you will work out where your strengths lie, and as far as your weaknesses go, you'll get better at them too. Number 7. You will learn about yourself and your characters. Following on from that last point, you will also learn a lot about yourself as well. Not just weaknesses and strengths, but things like where you draw the line as far as too much story goes. I mentioned this in the first point, that at some point all good things must end. And that one thing I was really careful about with Dying Thoughts and with all of my series is that I don't go beyond that point. I think the term is jumping the shark. I didn't want to get to a point where the suspension of disbelief broke. So when writing, I was always careful about making sure that I didn't reach that point. And to go along with this, you will not just learn about where to draw the line, but where your characters do as well. I know some writers think that characters are static and only work when the author does, but for me, they have got some life to them. And part of writing is getting to know them, getting to see what makes them tick, and getting to point them where they need to go. So bear that in mind. And number 8, saying goodbye can be a good thing. I touched on this a little about the ending being bittersweet, but I felt like it needed its own point as well. Part of writing the end is saying goodbye to that cast of characters, putting them away in your mental box and being done with them writing-wise, maybe for now. I mean, you're never actually done when it comes to marketing and the like, but actually actively writing them, there comes a point when it's over, and while it can be hard and it can be bittersweet, it can also be a good thing. Think about it. For 15 years I wrote with Tara by my side, and I love her as a character. She's amazing and witty and sarcastic and everything she needs to be. But part of being a writer is moving on, and part of that was saying goodbye and getting to know brand new characters, like Jessie from Crime Chronicles, who I've recently said goodbye to, though her story is far from finished. It's about growing, about getting to experience new characters and situations, and that's not a bad thing. So there we have it, all that I've learned about ending a series, from writing the Dying Thoughts series, from writing the Crime Chronicles series, and I guess some of it's thrown in from the Lights Out trilogy and the trilogy series that I'm working on at the moment. Saying goodbye to Tara was hard, but at the same time I didn't want it to get to the point where I took the book too far. I've read too many young adult series like that in my youth, and I didn't want to be that kind of author. So that meant ending the series, which meant making sure that I didn't go too far. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment or subscribe. I post videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pre-order Dying Thoughts 8th ending. This is like the last chance I get to say this. And also don't forget to pick up the swag if you do pre-order. All the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye.